Well, we came here to the Guinea National Park to test a new Mazda, a ute, and how appropriate the rough conditions, but of course the view of the great Australian outdoors. And what a wonderful location. Down on the plains we had the long roads, a bit of dust flying, but still some beautiful trees. But up here, the sheer grandeur of the environment, and of course its peacefulness, its quietness, its beauty come together. And indeed, it's a great opportunity because while we were here, it coincided with Anzac Day, that day in Australian history where we remember those who made a sacrifice, some the ultimate sacrifice, in fighting in wars to defend our principles and our freedoms. My father emigrated to Australia in the late 30s, and when war was declared, he enrolled and enlisted, and eventually ended up going to the siege of Tobruk, one of the great military, not necessarily victories as such, but a great stand that they made against all odds. Tobruk is at the top of Africa, and they were defending against the Italian and Germans who were pushing across from the west to try and capture the Suez Canal. The siege went for 8 months, and as I say, against the odds they held on. They eventually pulled out in order to get troops to go to Greece. In my father's memorabilia, caught in just a simple little box of about 350 millimetres by about 120, a little tin box with faded paint, there is one version of the newsletter they had at Tobruk, and it reflects with great glee that Germany had made the strategic error of invading Russia, and so it would drag their resources to other areas. Also in that box was a reflection of how my father could have been bitter, could have been angry at the system. He could have regaled us with negativity about the horrors of war, and indeed they are horrors, but he didn't. And in this memorabilia was a little note, handwritten note in pencil. My father had been put into an orphanage. His parents could not look after him, not his fault. But when he was about 9, there was this little note he received from his father in pencil that said, quite simply, "Dear Jack, prepare yourself for the worst. The sad news is your mother has died. See if you can borrow 2 bob from matron to get the bus to get to the funeral." My father's life was very tough, but again, he never complained. He never even talked about it, and I was too dumb to really ask him until the end. But then he told a few stories, but again, always positive. So my father's legacy was not to live in bitterness or triumphalism of war. He was to put that behind him, and he focused totally on giving my brother and I every opportunity he did not have. He also supported the extended family and friends in the community. I hadn't gone to many memorial services over the years. My father dutifully always marched in the Anzac parade. Again, he didn't dwell on that. That was his commitment. But when we were here in the Guinea National Park, Mazda, who were holding the launch of their new car, did a lovely touch. They erected a flagpole with the Australian flag, and at dawn on Anzac Day we stood around and had a service, a gathering, where we did remember those who had given a sacrifice, or in fact the ultimate sacrifice. It was a glorious reflection and meant a great deal to me that I will talk about to the rest of my family. It was an important point and a great opportunity to remember those who have sacrificed for us to live in this great, glorious country with great freedoms here in Australia.